This show is madness. Minnesota Tim. Jake's Takes. Madness.
This is Madness. It is Jake. It is Tim. It is Thursday morning. It is time to record a podcast. Jacob, how are you doing today?
Great. How are
Really?
you? I'm doing great, yeah.
Yeah, really? No complaints?
No complaints.
Well, that's good.
Nobody would listen anyway.
Well, here I am. You have an entire audience of thousands of people.
No, I don't actually have any complaints. It's pretty rare that I do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
At least real ones.
Well, your beard looks fresh.
Thanks.
Yeah, it looks nice.
Yeah, it was getting a little fluffy.
Mm-hmm.
I had a student yesterday said, "When was the last time you shaved?" I was like, "Well, if they're starting to notice, maybe it's time to clean it up."
Mm-hmm. I went with a mustache for about a week or so by itself, just for the first time ever, just because it was fun. I was inspired by my brother-in-laws actually, because they were going stash,
Okay.
and then
when Papa Steve has rocked that,
he's rocked it for a long time, and I was like, maybe he's waiting for the next generation to take it on, and I don't think I can pull it off as good as him, so I shaved it.
Steve's mustache is like as pristine, like it's the perfect amount of like fullness.
Mm-hmm.
It goes the right length around the lips. It's like it's top notch.
Yep. Yeah, he has a nice mustache.
Yeah.
Lots of stuff to get into today. Josh Dobbs named the starter for the Minnesota Vikings on Sunday. The Minnesota Timberwolves have the best record in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to discuss if the 2004 team or the 2023 team is better. According to that's Jacob's name, and I only can assume it's one thing. Is that right?
I just more meant myself. Was I cooler now as a 28-year-old or as a fourth grader, 10-year-old?
Yeah, I was thinking about it for myself too. And is a more inappropriate question. Do you want to hear my inappropriate question?
Not sure if I do.
Okay, you probably don't.
I will be honest, so don't say it. But I'm trying to. We'll save it for after the show, maybe.
Yeah.
But I don't really know what you could be coming up with that's inappropriate. Like I'm trying to figure out the Tim Parachka mind, and I can't really figure out where you're going.
Really? Oh, it's very it's inappropriate.
Hey, that's a good filter. Good job.
Yeah.
As a youth pastor and teacher, this is good.
Well,
control.
Yeah. Well, we're sinners. I mean, although I'm a youth pastor, doesn't mean I'm perfect.
Well, no, of course not. But
so I mean,
we can put out perfect. We can put out perfect content.
We can give the idea that we're perfect.
Yeah.
And then after the show, I can tell you what it actually was.
There we go. Yeah. And maybe we could text like Caleb or somebody who's like a loyal listener if he's curious.
True. Yeah.
Maybe Parker Bailey too.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Speaking of Parker Bailey, you ripped on Spotify Wraps last week. And honestly, before that, I hadn't even heard that they were a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And Parker Bailey sent us his Spotify Wrap on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
And we were in his top 5.
Well, then I'm all for Spotify Wraps. Share it as much as you want if we're in it.
Yep. The only acceptable Spotify Wraps are Minnesota Tim in the Spotify Wraps.
Yeah, so that's good on Parker Bailey. I mean, maybe we have a loyal listener battle because I didn't see Caleb share his with ours in it. So
it's true.
Is there a new number one? I don't know.
I know Parker's been a listener for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And he's even been on the show more than once.
True. Well, Caleb's been on it once.
Caleb's been on the show. Yeah. Caleb's been on it. He made his appearance when asked. So, yeah, we do have a battle, I think.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see who wants it more. But here's the topic of conversation that needs to be discussed. Tony LaBarbera posted on his Twitter this video, and he sent it to me of this Tampa Bay Lightning player farting, or some reporter
I
farting
think it was
during
a
this interview.
reporter during his interview. Yeah.
He's talking into a mic. He's answering a question. A reporter farts. The player just loses it. Just completely loses his ability to talk, his ability to finish a sentence, and he's laughing and the reporter's laughing for the final 10 to 20 seconds of this video. And Tony says, if I live to 90 years old, I will laugh at a fart just as hard as I do today, and just as hard as I did when I was 5. The surprise of all surprises, JJ_Wanda replies, and he says, so at 91, farts become unfunny? And then Tony says, yes, because I'll be dead. The dead can't laugh. Simple science. Jacob then responds with the banger of it all. Says, I think farts will still be funny in the afterlife. So, Jacob, I want to see how you came to this conclusion.
Well, I don't tweet very much anymore. It's pretty, I save it for some pretty important stuff. So when I see somebody, spewing out such nonsense, such as NBA Tony guy did,
Yeah.
I need to call it out because, it's at age 91, suddenly they're not funny.
Yeah.
They're still going to
Well,
be.
he said he's going to be dead.
Well, I know, right, but I just meant originally.
Right.
And then he says he's going to be dead. It's like, well, I think, whatever you believe about the afterlife, I think farts will still be funny in the afterlife. So
we believe Jesus is the solution, is the answer, is the truth, the way, the life. So you believe Jesus. Can you imagine chilling in heaven? Jesus, hey, I got a big one coming.
I mean, let's just analyze it in a very meticulous manner here.
Yeah.
Because that's what we do, is we dig deep and speak truth.
Yep.
I mean, Jesus probably farted when he was alive, right?
I don't know. And only in an appropriate way. I feel like it'd be a sin if he did it in the temple.
Like at the dinner table?
Or in the temple.
Or in the temple.
Yeah.
No? I mean, it's funny.
Yeah.
Can you imagine breaking bread, with the disciples at the Last Supper and just...
Oh, and guys, one more thing. My body is the bread, or the bread represents my body. The drink represents my blood. And one more thing. It's very important.
I mean, I would laugh.
I would laugh too.
Yeah.
Shows a sense of humor.
I think I think Tony's off base here a little bit. I think
the fact that he didn't respond
to
your afterlife tweet shows that he got owned a little bit.
That's the healthy way to live on social media, right? Whoever posts last is the person who wins the argument.
Yep.
But I just tweet about the important things. That's what's really happening. I mean, I don't tweet very often, but Tony needed to be called out. And I just had to do it. So
yeah, and people might think you're wrong here, but let me just remind them real quick on how right you normally are.
We're gonna score on our screenplay today. I'm feeling it. We're gonna have our screen is gonna be a touchdown. We practice our tackle and guard. They're ready to go. We're gonna get it done.
All right.
The Rockets of Rockford. I'm gonna say a pick 6 because they pass a lot.
Oh wow. Yeah, I just want to remind people just how accurate and right you have been on this podcast. So if they're going to listen to this podcast and say Jacob's wrong about farts, I would be really hesitant to disagree with anything Jacob says on this podcast because he's normally right.
I appreciate it, and I agree.
Yeah,
I'm often right. I'm just messing.
Oh man, what a fun conversation. That's going to be the podcast title. Are there farts in the afterlife? Anyway, thank you for the inspiration. 2004 or 2023? Were you cooler then, or are you cooler now?
Well, I'm going to go with now.
Yeah, I would go with now.
As cool as I was in 4th grade.
Yeah. 10 years old at the moment. You know,
What about you?
I would say now for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were pretty lame back then.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I'm just more mature. I've experienced.
Yeah.
Well, that's up for debate.
Yeah.
I've experienced more things in my
That's true.
in my immaturity. I've experienced more things.
That's true.
And I mean things. I've experienced more things. If you know what I mean.
Like you have a job,
Right. I have a job.
house, and
Right. Yeah. And more things.
yeah.
Mm. 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 And but let's get on to the serious conversation here. Not that that wasn't serious. The Timberwolves 2004 versus 2023. And I hadn't ever thought about this topic of conversation before. And I was struggling thinking about topics coming into the podcast today. So I'm glad that you brought this up. Kevin Garnett, Sam Cassell, Latrell Sprewell, Fred Hoiberg, Mark Madsen. Well, I don't know if Fred Hoiberg was on the team. I think he was.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he was. Oliver
he was
Candy,
definitely
is
on that
that
team.
him?
He came off
Irvin
the bench. Trent
Irvin
Hassel,
Irvin Johnson, I think, was the starting center
Irvin
that year.
Johnson, yeah, Wally Zerbiak
Yep.
versus today. Edwards, Gobert, Towns, Conley,
Jade McDaniels when healthy.
Jay McDaniels when healthy.
Not
That's a tough one because you'd have to say the best player out of all of them is Kevin Garnett. Anthony Edwards not far behind.
I'd
But
say it's closer than I think we'd think,
yeah.
if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Because I agree, because it's hard to look at KG in like MVP season, peak of his powers, Hall of Famer, and say like Ant is close. But in this singular season, the difference that Ant makes is close. But I think you still give the edge to KG just a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The edge goes to Kevin Garnett, I think. But then you think about Jaden McDaniels and Latrell Sprewell. The edge probably still goes to Latrell Sprewell at this. I mean, he was at the peak of his powers at this point, maybe near the end. He only had that was probably his last good season. So
Yeah, say it was towards the end, yeah, because he was an All NBA like first teamer in the like late '90s.
Yeah, definitely an All NBA first teamer in terms of choking his coach.
I would say true.
So I would say the edge goes to Sprewell. The edge goes to Cassell over Conley. But then the debate happens. Is it Irvin Johnson or Rudy Gobert? Is it Trent Hassel or Karl Anthony Towns?
So this is how I would think about it. I think the collective other four starters for this 23 team are kind of leaps and bounds better than the collective four starters for the 04 team, if that makes sense. Because you're right. I think Sprewell, McDaniels, you could argue Sprewell, but at the end of the day, I think Sprewell only averaged like 15 points a game that year.
Yeah.
So like McDaniels isn't, he's way better defender.
Way better defender. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, Cassell, honestly, Cassell and Conley are probably somewhat similar because Cassell was in his early to mid 30s, I think, as well.
Yeah.
And kind of did similar things. So, and then like I said, Towns and Gobert are infinitely better than Johnson and Hassel or Zerbiak or whatever other combo you want to throw out there. So the depth of this team, I think, is better than the 04 team.
100% agree.
And part of it is just, generally speaking, the NBA is just better as a whole. Like, players are just, I think, generally speaking, are better. Weight training and just all the advancements that have been made. I think it's easier to have good depth now.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's just more options available to you.
Yeah.
So,
and I'd say it's definitely a more finesse game now too.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's way more skill in today's game. In 2004, it was more, I'm going to beat you up inside and I'm going to score inside. They rarely shot 3-pointers.
Yeah.
You watch the 2004 game and the score is 83-80 and it was all Kevin Garnett inside.
Yep.
Just the way it was.
Yep.
So if you're going to have to pick a team to win this basketball game, which team are you picking?
I think it's 2023. It just is.
Yeah.
I think it's an overall better team.
Would you say the same? What would you say between the 2022 versus the 2004 Timberwolves?
Like last year's team?
Yeah, basically the same players.
Basically, well, we didn't have Towns. That's the main
Well,
difference for most of that season. But yes, right. Because isn't that funny how your perspective changes though? You're like, well, they didn't perform very well last year. It's like, well, it's the same group
we
of
still
guys.
had them for 26 games, and we were
Yeah.
13-13.
And Conley was coming in late, and
It's true.
the Gobert might be the biggest difference between last year and this year.
Yeah, Gobert's been a beast.
Yeah,
defensively.
But to your point, though, it is weird how your brain is like, I'd pick out the 04 team over last year's team.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Same players, same team,
right.
Basically. Yeah.
But it's just the influence of that. I mean, because at the end of the day, what would we 16-4 right now?
Yeah.
Like it's hard to not let that muddy how you think, because like they are the best team in the league.
Right.
There was how many, I keep seeing the tweets, how many seasons that we finished 16-66. I saw a picture going around yesterday of like our roster when we were 16-66, kind of the look how far we've come.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen that too. Yeah, like Al Jefferson, Randy Foye, Johnny Flynn.
Yeah.
I've seen that going around. At this point, if the Timberwolves have the best record at the All-Star break, how many All-Stars are in? Is Gobert, Towns, and Gobert, Towns, and Edwards, are they all in?
Probably not all three.
Yeah.
It depends on.
They're all playing at an all-star level right now.
They are, yeah. I mean, Ant obviously for sure. And I don't know.
That's a tough one, isn't it? I mean, Gobert's been so good.
Yeah. I was gonna say Gobert might sneak in because he's a center. Like the full forward. They usually try to. I know it's just guards and forwards now, but they try to get a center or two typically. And then besides Jokic, is there anyone else that's really? I mean, I'm sure there is, and I'm forgetting about somebody, but like, Gobert's playing as one of the best centers in the league, so it's hard to say.
It depends on where they'd put Anthony Edwards, and if he's healthy.
Yeah.
Would they consider him a center, or would they consider him a forward?
Well, it probably won't consider Edwards a center, probably.
Oh, I meant Anthony Davis.
Oh, Anthony Davis.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I meant Anthony Davis. I think I said Anthony Edwards, but I meant Anthony Davis. I was actually being serious, and then you were like, I don't think I'd consider a center. I'm like, Anthony Davis? He might be.
No, he's a center / forward, yeah. But
so it'd be the Timberwolves could have three players in the All-Star game.
And benefiting them is they usually favor teams that are good when it comes to the extra picks and stuff. So like if we're the 1 seed, like we're more likely to have multiple All-Stars.
Yeah.
So just
so only the team, we're 16-4, 3 games above the 2nd seed.
I know. That's crazy. Yeah. We have a lead in the West. But even last night was a perfect. And by the way, Holly's gonna be getting in the truck in a minute or two, so you might have to monologue for like a minute.
Sounds good.
It was amazing to watch. Last night was a perfect example of a game they lose last year.
Mm-hmm.
They were down. Ant was coming back. You could tell he wasn't 100% or was nervous about his hip. They were down a handful of points. They just were kind of lackadaisical, and then all of a sudden they put the hammer. They did what teams have done to the Wolves for decades, right?
That's been the trend this year. They've
let them linger and then put the hammer down the 3rd and 4th quarter.
Yep, that's what good teams do.
That's what good teams do.
Oh, we lost him. The truck started. You know what I was thinking too? I was thinking to text him to swipe up his phone and get rid of the Bluetooth and then come back. But it's time. Here's the real question. Is Rose from Titanic a villain? Because you think about that movie, and there's this thread going around on Twitter. Who are villains that aren't villains? And Rose from Titanic might be a real villain. You think about it, leaves her engaged husband, leaves her fiance, joins this homeless homie on the ship, Jack, because she was lustful for him and lustful for freedom, sleeps with him, or well, at least lets him draw a picture of her naked with this heart of the ocean necklace on, and sleeps with him. Yeah, there's that car scene where they sleep together while still engaged to the fiance. And then at the end, hops on the door, lets Jack die, still has her freedom from the fiance, and then 90 years later, 80 years later, she sees this drawing of her, calls in, goes on the ship on top of the Titanic, looks at the Titanic, tells all these people stories that are looking for the heart of the ocean, and right before she dies, while these people are looking for the heart of the ocean, she drops the heart of the ocean necklace to the bottom of the ocean. Like, who does that? It's kind of a douchebag move. And Jacob's back, by the way.
I'd say I came back a little bit into that Titanic rant, so what a sharp turn of events.
When you leave, I sing the Titanic song.
Oh yeah,
it's fun. And then I went on a rant because I saw a thread on Twitter last week about who are villains that aren't villains. Like, who are
thought of
villains?
Carl Anthony Towns or what?
Well, I was singing that Titanic song.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
And then it went to Rose is actually a villain because of what she did in that movie. It's the same with The Notebook. Have you ever seen The Notebook before, where the main girl in the movie?
A long time ago, I saw it. I haven't seen it.
Well, it's a love story between two high school sweethearts that get back together. But truly, the story is about this girl that moves away, isn't the girlfriend of the high school guy anymore, is engaged to this other guy, sees a picture of her old high school boyfriend next to this house, goes and meets him, sleeps with him, leaves, goes back to her fiance. They break up and then goes back. It's really a story about a high school girl that had a fling, couldn't get over it, left her fiance for this guy.
Infidelity,
Yeah. It's really a story about infidelity.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
I just don't know what to do so when it connects to the truck.
Yeah, well, I actually went on a little rant about that too. I said, I was going to tell you to swipe up your phone and disconnect Bluetooth on your phone.
Oh, I suppose I could just do that ahead of time. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's kind of fun.
So I went into my settings and it switches to my Chevy. So I clicked iPhone, right, to put audio back to iPhone.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't let that happen. I clicked it would circle and then just stay on my Chevy. Yeah. And it'd circle and stay on my Chevy and circle and stay on, I kept clicking iPhone and it wouldn't let me switch the audio.
Yeah.
But I suppose just turn off Bluetooth for 20 minutes. That's
simple solutions have simple answers.
Sure.
Look at me.
Simple problems have simple solutions.
Yeah. There you go. Look at that. That sounds even better.
So thank you. Next week we'll do that.
Yeah.
Anyway, all that is to say, I could see Towns and Gobert being all-stars. Hey, it'd be exciting though to see Finch as the head coach of the Western All-Stars. So I think it sounds like they are going back to East-West, right? And I saw that somewhere.
Are they? Okay.
I don't know if that's this year, if that was for a next year thing or whatever, but
yeah, I don't know.
They're going back to an East-West game instead of a All-NBA game or whatever.
And an NBA draft or whatever.
Instead of the draft thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, Josh Dobbs was named the starter for the Vikings on Sunday. Last week, you and I both said Josh Dobbs would be the starter on Sunday. We both predicted this. What's your reaction to being right again? I mean, does it ever get tiring?
No. If you ask Collie, it gets tiring.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I mean, that was the right move, and that was the move that was obvious. We'll see if it turns out to be the truly right move, right? If it works out, but he's shown what he can do. You'd hope in a bye week, you've had 2 weeks to prepare. Hopefully he can work on some of those reads and understand the playbook better.
Mhm.
I mean, they know what they have in Mullins. Jaron
Yeah.
Hall's the only one that you could argue, like, well, is it worth trotting him out there?
Right.
But they've seen him at practice for a year or half a year, right? So they know what they got in him too. So they must. That's the one thing that we always, as fans, right, we kind of just forget about is we watch games. We might consume some practice content if we're diehards, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's videos or press conferences or whatever. But at the end of the day, compared to the coaches, the multitude, think about how many offensive coaches they have on their staff. I don't even know the number. It's a lot.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot.
And they are with these gentlemen every single day, watching film with them, watching practice and having them practice. And it's their job, right? Doesn't mean every single person that's working in the NFL is obviously phenomenal at their job, right? There's probably some duds in there. But most of them are there because they're good, right? Most of them are there because they understand football. They know they've made good decisions. They get game theory. They get blah, 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 blah. They're good at coaching football. That's hopefully why most of them are coaches. So at the end of the day, it's a dumb take because it's like, well, just trust them because they're good coaches. But to some extent, that's true, right? They've seen these three quarterbacks for this, for the duration of the season.
Right.
Can't we just trust that they're making the best decision? I know that's a lame take because it's not fun. Because then you don't argue. But
right.
I just had people that were mad. They wanted Mullins or they wanted Hall, or it's like, and they were just speaking matter of factly. It's like, I don't know, just trust KOC. I mean, he's got a good track record. He's a smart guy.
Well, even throwing that out, I mean, from the viewer's eye, Josh Dobbs is easily the most explosive quarterback.
Correct.
So funny how one really, 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 really bad game against the Chicago Bears, a game in which Dobbs still technically gave the Vikings a chance to win.
Mm-hmm.
I think if the Vikings defense holds the Bears to no points at the end of the game, we're not even having this conversation because it's, even though Josh Dobbs threw 4 interceptions, he still threw that touchdown pass to TJ Hawkinson and gave the Vikings a chance to win. That's just the kind of baller he is. I know he played bad, but when he had to put it together, he put it together. So I feel like, you stop Russell Wilson from throwing a touchdown pass.
Mm-hmm.
You stop the Chicago Bears from kicking a field goal. And Josh Dobbs is undefeated as a Minnesota Vikings starter.
Or even if you go 1 for 2, right? Let's say you hold on against because the Broncos one was worse in terms of the giving up that touchdown.
Right.
The Bears driving and getting a field goal, that's that happens.
Right.
So even if he goes 1 for 2, right, you're probably not having that conversation.
Yeah.
And on a slight side note, this might be a controversial take here.
Ooh, let's hear it.
Because people are so mad that they lost to the Bears. I think it's very, very possible the Bears could be a division favorite next year.
Ooh. Because they're going to hire Jim Harbaugh?
Well, I don't know. They could use maybe a coach, but the defense is legit, or at least close to legit. So the fact that we only scored 10 points on them is not crazy. They should have beaten the Lions 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago now, whatever it was.
Yeah.
I guess it would have been 3 weeks ago. They were double digits beating the Lions in the fourth quarter, choked, fine, whatever. Justin Fields, I think, is dynamic. Mm-hmm. And I think they're going to have the first overall pick, and they're going to have their own pick, which is going to be, 4 or 5, 6, 7, or 8, depending on how the season ends. They're going to, if you put Marvin Harrison Jr. on that team, let's say, if they trade back a few picks to let somebody jump up and get Caleb Williams, and then they get, let's say the 4th pick next, another first-round pick, probably another first-round pick, they're going to be set up for a nice little run here if Justin Fields is the guy. That's obviously a key question here. He may or may not be. We're not 1,000% sure yet. But, you put Marvin Harrison Jr. and then maybe another defender on that team that's a top 5 pick, suddenly I think they could be dynamic. So that's a little Bears rant for you.
A little Bears rant. Well, the Packers are 6-6. The Vikings are 6-6. I think the Packers are going to finish with a better record than the Vikings because their schedule down the stretch is a cakewalk. They got the Giants. I know they got the Bucks. They got the Panthers. They've got us, and then they've got one more team whose name is escaping me.
Have they played the Lions twice? I feel like
I
don't
think they
remember.
have already played them twice.
Did they?
I think so. So
well, maybe the Bears because they try to end with division.
Oh,
games.
the Bears. Yeah.
Bears at the end of the year.
Yeah, they haven't played the Bears.
Because we play the Lions.
Yeah, we play the Lions twice. So the Packers are a scary NFC North team right now that just beat the Chiefs, just beat the Chargers, and one other team.
Looks good.
Yeah.
Last few weeks, he's looked phenomenal. There's a stretch there where he looked quite bad. And now he's looked very, very good. I mean, I don't know for this year, too, because I really don't think the Lions are that good. Now, obviously, they're the best of the four, it seems like, at the moment.
Yeah.
But I think next year, I wouldn't be surprised if all four teams, like their over-unders are, we don't know. It's going to be 9-8. Like all four right there as a similar level of ability. Now, if the Vikings don't get Cousins, let's say, if we trot next year with somebody like Josh Dobbs, I think we might be the least favorite, right? We might be the worst of the four, potentially, if we don't retool at quarterback. But anyway.
Well, the Vikings are just in that perfect spot. They're 6-6, and they might make the playoffs. They might not make the playoffs. They'll be right there in the middle of the road, just far enough away from having a top 10 pick, but just close enough to the playoffs to not make it and be one of those in-betweener 50-50 teams that didn't make the playoffs, but were too good to have a top 10 pick.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you're right, though. I mean, Lions twice, that's a little scary. Packers, even though it's home, that's still a little scary.
Yeah.
The Bengals, I mean, Jake Browning looks like he could. I mean, now he's not probably going to throw for over 300 yards every game and 3 touchdowns or whatever he did, but he looked good. And the Bengals are fighting for a playoff spot. They could be a 7 seed, 6 seed in the AFC right now because they're 500-ish. Right. So there's not a lot of easiness left on the Vikings schedule. That's for sure.
No, there's not. It's going to be a tough. I think it's going to be tougher to make the playoffs than it is not, if that makes sense. I don't think the Vikings are
more likely they don't make the playoffs.
Yeah, that's a better way to say it. I think the Vikings missed out on the playoffs this year.
Yeah, I mean they have to get. We're 6-6. They'd have to get to guarantee it. I'd say you have to get 3 wins, right? You have to get to 9-8. There's an off chance you get in at 8-9 because there's like teams like the Seahawks are 6 and like there's some other 6-6 teams that could falter as well. Yeah. But 9-8 seems like a must-have. So what are the 3 wins, right? You assume it's got to be the Raiders once, or this week.
My mind went to 4-1. So I said you got to beat the Raiders, you got to beat the Bengals, you got to split with the Lions, and you got to beat the Packers at home.
Yeah, and I would say that locks it up no matter what. Obviously, if you go 4-1, 10 wins is good enough. I just meant the 7 seed probably will be a 9-8 team.
Yeah.
But then you're worried about tiebreakers. Do the Seahawks finish 9-8? Do the Buccaneers sneak 9-8? Or
a lot of teams are right around there.
Right.
So
yeah.
Anything else that you wanted to discuss today?
No. I will say this. If you teach, I mean, I'm sure you run into it as well as the youth pastor. Confirming that farts are still funny. When there's a fart in the classroom, everyone still laughs. So
there's a kid in youth group last night. I was sitting in the back while other guy was giving the message, and he farted really loud. No one else laughed.
But you did?
A little bit. I had a little chuckle underneath my breath.
You know how like I'll be watching some videos on Facebook or whatever, and like the algorithm will just feed you kind of like themes of videos, right? Like
I get stuff that you watch. Yeah,
I get a lot of cooking videos. Then you get more cooking videos. There's a little stretch where like there must.
I love that you get cooking videos. That's cool.
Yeah, that's a lot of them. It was somebody farted in like a public place. So then for a while I had a bunch of like farting videos, and it made me laugh so hard. There was like I don't know if it was like a trend or whatever, but it was like a cover your fart was like the bit. So
Yeah.
it's like kids in class and they like do a terrible job of covering their. It's like they'll go, and then like after the cough is over, like.
That's hilarious.
And every time, like again, Holly was sitting there rolling her eyes, but every time the kids did it, it made me laugh because
That is so funny. Oh, I can't believe that's awesome.
I mean, it's just life is too short. Life is too serious. It's okay just to laugh at farts sometimes.
Laugh at farts. I'm still on the fact that you watch a bunch of cooking videos on Facebook.
That's cool. Like 90% of it, yeah.
That's pretty cool. Huh. And then do you make them afterwards?
Oh, I don't know. Sometimes.
Yeah.
We get inspired. Yeah, I mean, because we're Holly's very much, she likes to make different types of things. So
yeah, I get inspired
new ideas, fresh ideas. Yeah.
Yeah, I get inspired every once in a while. I got inspired the other day to make chicken with peanut butter.
Yeah.
And like mix it together. Do not do that. It tasted like crap. So.
Well, were you trying to make like an Asian? Because like there's peanut sauce that people will make using peanut butter. So usually it's like soy sauce and peanut butter.
Yeah, we didn't have soy sauce in it, but I've tried chicken and peanut butter without the soy sauce. It was not very good.
So just literally peanut butter and chicken?
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds no. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I will say I don't like a peanut sauce that much, like the Asian style peanut sauce.
Yeah, I was trying it. It's just something different. That's inspired.
It's just too much peanut butter for me, but
Haley and I like chicken. Haley and I like peanut butter. So I'm like, let me try chicken peanut butter. Didn't work out very well.
No.
Maybe try it with soy sauce next time.
Right. Yeah. Look up like a Asian like peanut sauce. And then you can dip like teriyaki chicken in it or stuff like that.
Yeah, that sounds nice.
Yeah, that's better. Again, I'm not a huge fan, but that's better.
Yeah.
I assume than just plain peanut butter.
We should dive into more cooking recipes with Jacob. That sounds kind of fun.
Well, right now I got 2 Iowa thick cut pork chops in a bag with some.
Look at you.
They're what's the word? They're not glazing. They're
resting.
They're resting with a soy sauce, a little vinegar, rice wine vinegar, brown sugar.
The fumes are coming together.
Yep. Marinating. That's what I'm
marinating. That's a good word.
And we'll fry them up tonight. Yeah.
Ooh, that sounds nice. Sounds very sensational. All right, everyone. That's going to do it for this episode. Jacob, as always, thank you.
As always, thank you.
Everyone have a great day. Thank you for listening or watching. Appreciate it. Hit subscribe, hit the follow button, and everyone have a great day.